Hello everyone, I'm Rodrigo Moraga. I'm an engineer in biotechnology, but then I moved to science. Yeah. And I come from Chile, and I just decided to move to science at one point of my life because I had the opportunity to try it, and then it just happened. So when I was doing my master, I did my master in research, and then I just finished it. I started working as a lab manager, and then I said what's next? And the truth is that there was always in my mind this idea to go abroad and to do a PhD, not in my home country, but to go abroad. And so I did. So my only option by that time was to earn a scholarship from my country to go abroad. So I applied for it, and fortunately I got it, and that's when I am here in the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. Next question. So how did I look for my PhD? Well, let's say that I came here when I was doing my master. I did an internship in Groningen, and I just love the city. And also, they have way more money and resources here for you to work. So it was a really nice place. And my boss by that time had a contact here, another contact. So I came to do an internship, and then some years later, when I decided that I wanted to do a PhD, I just got a contact from my boss from there, another one. So yes, and then we started talking with my actual supervisor, promoter, let's say, and then we agreed that if I earned a scholarship, I would be here, and then I'm here. That's it. In my case, I just found first the group and then the funding. Because if you apply for a scholarship, you already have to have a place to go. So it's not like you just apply to go everywhere or somewhere. You already have to plan it in advance. So that's how it happened. It's very hard to find fundings if you don't have the information, actually. But well, in my case, I just had the opportunity of this scholarship from my country. But then I realized that there are programs like the Abel Tasman and other ones that just you can just apply, and they are international programs and scholarships. But well, depends. In my specific case, in my country, it's a bit difficult to get the grant since they don't give that many. And then it's a lot of money that they give you because it's a 4-year salary and with European standards, let's say. So yeah, I can say that it's a bit hard. But any tips, just try to look for any kind of funding and then just try to apply to everything and make good contacts. I think that's important. So I had this contact from my boss in Chile, and the thing is that we met because Eric, my currently supervisor, he went to Chile, and we met. We just talked about a lot of stuff. He told me what they were doing here, and the good thing is that if I was a scholarship, in my case, I could just decide or be more active in my ideas and decisions of what to do and what to study and things like that. So that was for me really attractive. And and that was also like neuroscience, which is the area that I love. But I really think it's important that you choose something that you feel comfortable with, yeah, or something that challenges you, if you are the kind of person that wants to get challenged. Yeah? So yeah, also it depends a lot about what you really want to. So first is you have to, yeah, know what you want, and then you will know what you're looking for. Yes, it is. I mean, most people will say maybe, yeah, it's not the really important thing, but I think that for you to be productive and happy and to love what you're doing, there's a lot of an influence of the country and the weather. You know, if you go to a very, very cold country, I know a lot of people that get very depressed because of the dark, because of the rain, because of the cold. So yeah, I think it's important. This was a challenge for me actually, because I was a bit messy when I just started on research. But I think that you learn making mistakes. And then when you realize that some things are missing, you just have to write everything. So the point where you realize that is when you start being organized actually. So I just write everything. Even if it's on a paper, I have like a small notebook with tasks, for example, so then I can give priority and say, okay, I have a lot of things to do, but this and this and this is important, so I will just finish this and then go on with the rest. So you have to decide what is urgent and what is important, because that's really, really different. So also get like a very organized calendar, so you don't forget meetings, and then you know like how to distribute your times to do the tasks that you have to do. Yeah, this is a tricky question. Well, regularly, I think that when you get more experience, you start doing things faster. And then to save time for your personal life, let's say, you just avoid a bit doing procrastination. Because procrastination is something that just, it's needed, you know, because when you're like all the time focused on something, you need to, I don't know, go and take a round or go eat something or whatever, but then sometimes it can get just out of your hands, and you can just, I don't know, start like looking at Facebook a lot, or talking by WhatsApp, you know, or just looking for, I don't know, random stuff on the internet. So that's how you save time, I think. You can procrastinate in very short ways, but it's not really necessary that you're all the time doing other stuff. Well, you encounter a lot of problems actually. When you're doing research, you just realize that things are not going the way that you expect. Almost never, you know. Like nothing is perfect, and then yeah, you sometimes end with projects that just failed because a small detail that you didn't think about, or you did but it just happened at some point. So and mostly you always have like a lot of stuff to do at some point. So I think like time management, it's a thing that can become a problem, a very important one. Yes. Mm. Well, yeah, you always make mistakes. It's that's how you learn. So, for example, when you do experiments, you always at the beginning I don't know. When you do, in my case, behavioral experiments, you start talking or making noises, and then you realize that you're like influencing the experiment, you know, and then you kind of lost that small experiment, or I don't know, like it's very typical in science when you just confound experimental groups or things like that. So yeah, there's a long list of mistakes that I could say that I did in the past. I think at the beginning I started working a lot. So normally when you start a PhD, the first and second year it's like more relaxed, and then you start like with the pressure on the third and fourth. But in my case, I just put in the pressure from the beginning. So since in the specific case of this university, you need 4 publications or 4, not really publications, but original research papers. Yeah, it's a bit challenging sometimes if you just take it easy. But yeah, luckily I'm more than on time. Yes. I think it's important that you like what you're doing. It's sometimes science can be very ungrateful, maybe the word. So if you don't love what you're doing, and if you don't uh, have, let's say, a good ability to overcome to frustration, it can be a hard way for you. So I think those 2 things are the most important ones, beside other ones. Networking, I think, is a thing I enjoy the most in my PhD. For example, sharing with colleagues, getting together, have these small moments, for example, like the coffee, going to lunch together, or well, also knowing other people, which is outside your department, um, going out with friends in the city. I think the PhD is a whole experience, not just coming to work, but also you're living in another country. So you met new people, you do other stuff, you buy new things, you eat other things. So it's a whole experience, I think. So you can do a lot. Yes, there's always pressure. Um, in my specific case, I'm good in schedule, so I don't have the pressure of publishing, but it's something that it will always be there. I mean, if you're like good in a schedule, you have to have publish or accept it to paper, so that's kind of challenging. And then, yeah, always the supervisors have expectations from you, and you have the pressure to not disappoint them, maybe. So yeah, there's always pressure. I think a successful PhD is not the one that publish more, but it's the one that it's capable of have networking to support himself, and then one that is willing to do good science. I think this is a learning process in which you learn more things than just, writing papers and doing experiments. I think it's more about being more human. I mean, you can compete, of course, but I think the most important thing is that you collaborate and then you improve the quality of stuff. So, yeah, that's my opinion. Oof, this is a very tricky question. Well, in my specific case, since I have a scholarship, what I regret is that I didn't have enough information to look for other opportunities outside, other scholarships. That when you arrive here, then you realize that okay, yeah, you got your scholarship. That was really, really nice. You're so happy, but then you realize here that you're in disadvantage because there are all these other types of employees, so PhD students that have so many benefits and extra payments and things that it's like, yeah, can be a bit disappointing at some point. Yeah, I remember that the first student that I had was a bachelor student. So from my same career, biotechnology. But there were two at the same time actually, and I supervised them for let's say 1 year, because they started as a bachelor and then they moved to masters, and then yeah, I keep supervising them. And yeah, I think it was a great experience. I was actually very young when that happened. And the thing is that you learn a lot from other people. I think every time you have a student, you just learn something new. There are different approaches for different people, and you just have to find the best way to, you know, to cooperate with them, to help them, to support them, you know, and also to teach them and to be independent. So I think it was the first one was a very challenging, and it's the one that you take the most of it. So it was a good experience. Depends on the student, I think. Yeah, because sometimes you have students that are, well, let's say at a basic level, which is bachelor, that they come for short. So then you spend a lot of time helping them, teaching them, and then, yeah, and the moment that they learn, they just go away. And that's not really helpful. I mean, it's fulfilling for you, but in terms of if it saves time, in those specific cases, no. But if you have like a student that is staying here for longer, uh, well, yeah, it also depends a bit on the level, but I think it's more the time. Then, yeah, you can take the most of it, actually. You spend some time teaching them, and then they just learn and can be independent at some point, so that's very time-saving. Yeah, I personally like a lot having students. It's, as I said, it's very fulfilling. It's, I know you feel you are helping the community in some way, and also you learn a lot, you know, and sometimes when you do a good job and then appreciate it, you know, it's I don't know, it's very nice feeling, I have to say. Each person actually have a specific way of being and working. So the best tip is that try to identify as fast as possible how people works. Yeah? So sometimes people are not very social, or sometimes they're very social. They like to talk, and there are people that doesn't learn that fast, or people that learn very fast, you know. But there's always like strengths and weaknesses. So I think that if you identify them, then you can have a way to deal with them and to use it in a good way for you, actually. Yeah, this is a question that you always ask yourself when you're like entering in research, right? I think in my personal story, when I was a master's student, when I finished it, I thought I was like the kind of person that will not have any ideas ever. So I thought I was more like a technician, you know, or something, like someone that do things but really don't get new ideas. But I think the more you are growing, the more you read, the more you're involved in the field, then you can start getting ideas by yourself. It just happened. Or maybe you're gifted and you're just very creative itself, you know. But I think that reading, it's a very powerful tool to get ideas, because then you know what is known and what is still not known and what should be interesting to do. And well, because interesting actually means that it has to be something that people will read. You know, it's not like I'm just going to investigate I know why the apples are red, because that's already known, you know, like things like that. Yeah. You have two ways. First one is that you're asked to write a review on a specific topic. And the second one is um, when you're like writing or doing research or reading or looking for literature actually, then you realize what it's lacking. So for example, in my case, always when I start some writing process, I just first go to reviews to check like what is known in the literature to get a bit more involved, and then you go for the specifics. So if you don't find like the specific review that you're looking for, it means that there's a possibility to write a review about it. Yeah, so I think the number of articles that you read per week depends on also if you're writing, if you are doing experiments or not, and how much time available do you have. Because when I'm writing, I don't know, I can say I can read 100 per week, or in average, can be more, can be less. But it really depends on what you're really doing. And yeah, in my case, it's a bit difficult to have track of all what is known. I mean, I have an idea that, yeah, I think I read this somewhere, you know. But then, like, there are some people that it's, oh yeah, this author, this group from that university just published it, and oof, that's a bit complicated. But for the people like us, you can just always use Mendeley, you know. So if you find like, always when you read an article, try to think in advance if you can use it in the future or not. So you have Mendeley or EndNote, which are like these programs for reference management, and you can just, I don't know, make folders for important things, and then you just, even if you don't remember what you're doing, you just know where to find it. So that's a method that I use actually. Yeah, I think it's important that when you write an article, you kind of know what you're writing. So go for reviews first. Yeah. So read a lot about the subject, and then start thinking about how you could put the information in some way, and then you start writing. So I think in my specific case, what helps me a lot is to make a scheme. So I say, okay, I want some paragraphs. These are the things that I have to put. So then you have like a small paper in which you have, okay, introduction, some short ideas, and then materials and methods, what do you have to put, and then the results also that you have, and then a discussion, like what you should discuss. So just short sentences which will guide you to write and to develop, like to go more into depth into this, into the writing. What I learned in a writing course, it's something very useful. So always you have this structure of paragraphs, and this actually makes your life way easier, or maybe not, and depends on everyone. But so it's like a paragraph should have two main ideas, and then each main idea can have two support ideas. So you just put the support ideas and the main ideas in one sentence, so you end up in paragraphs of 6 sentences. And that makes it easier and actually more clear for the reader, because then you're not jumping from one side to another, you're just very concise, but also everything is more linked and it's more directly accessible. Wow, you can cry, you can laugh about it. So in my case, it's unavoidable to have a bit of frustration, you know. So I don't know. I just talk with colleagues, and at the end, you just laugh about it, and then you just know. You start thinking what to do next. So, for example, if you have negative results, you can always try something to check why did you have a negative results, and if you have a good experiment to determine what happened, then you may end actually with a paper. So you just change the hypothesis, which is not the correct way to do things. but but then you can still, let's say, use those negative results. Or also, there are these new journals actually now that are publishing negative results, which I think it's a very important contribution to the scientific society. Sometimes you just do experiments without knowing that someone already did and it failed, just because you don't find it on the literature. So I think positive results actually are a bit overweighted in research. So yeah, you can always use negative results for different things. Also, you can publish it. Yes. In this case, you just every scientist loves their work. Yeah? So you may have some results that you can publish, and then you think they are the best, you know. But then one rejection, it's okay. You know, I mean, it depends on the motives that they had to reject your work. So that's something that you have to be prepared of. So it just happened, and it's like, okay, yeah, I just got rejected. I'm just sending it to another journal. But then when you already get rejected a lot of times, then you have to start thinking that maybe your project is not as good as you think, and you always have to go lower. So at some point, at some point you will, if you have a nice work, you can just publish it, or you can just add some experiments if you have the time and the money to just cope with what's missing in the work. Now, I think now I'm in a point of my life in which I am very okay with the free time that I have. I think I have a very hard training back in my home country, so then I didn't have time. Here now, even if I work more than the hours that it's needed, because you have deadlines to cope with, yeah, I think I have a lot of free time. I do sports sometimes, and I go out with friends, go to the movies. So yeah, I'm very happy. I have a good social life, I think. That's not really a problem right now. Well, depends. Always depends on the week, but in average, I think it's from 9 to 10 hours per day. And when you have experiments, yeah, you have to come in the weekends, and it can be, I don't know, twice in the same day, and then you have protocols of 2 hours and a half, something like that. So you spend like 3 hours on the weekend each day, Saturday and Sunday. But that's part of the deal, you know. And it also depends in the area that you work in, but you know already, you have to know already that it's part of the deal, that sometimes you have to work on weekends and do extra hours. Here in Netherlands, yes. I think it's an enough salary, so you have enough to live, even if the rent is too expensive. But if you go to Cyprien's house, I think it's very nice. And then you can just go out sometimes to eat. You have money to save, money to travel, so I think it's okay. And yeah, you live comfortably, but not everyone actually has the same luck. So, for example, in Latin American countries, PhD students are exploited, and then the salary is very, sometimes it's even not enough to live alone by yourself. So that's a pity. So, but in here I feel very lucky, let's say. Well, in general, I'm very happy with my PhD. So there's not that I would do it differently. I mean, maybe I would open more my spectrum of research and not being close to a single model, let's say. Or as I said about the scholarship, I would just enter with in another way, you know, to have the benefits that everyone has. But yeah, I would just, that will be it, I think. Uh, Coming here, actually, I think I will not change that decision. And also, I think like the way I manage my job, it's something I like a lot, and I wouldn't change it. When you want to participate in a lot of activities and be very active in the community, and then you realize that some of the things that you're like leading and spending time in are not really worthy, but you think that if you don't do it, sometimes people will not do it. But that I will do differently, like not take responsibility for things that are not really my responsibility. Patience. Uh, Also, like having power for overcoming frustrations. I think that's one of the most important things. And and also like critical thinking. Yeah, you cannot be a PhD without critical thinking. I think I learned about life. You know, for me, really, PhD is not something about um, research itself. It's an experience. So it's about learning about life. Be patient. Yeah. Patience makes the strongest tree to grow. Definitely, yes. Up until now, I think the PhD it's one of the most amazing experience that I had in my life. It's intense, you know? It's you enjoy a lot. You suffer sometimes. You're homesick sometimes. You know, you miss things, and but it's really worth it. I would do it like again and again and again. um, yeah, I would like to actually talk about PhD life. You know, I think it's something that you could recommend to people. I would recommend doing a PhD for people if you're really, really loving what you do. Yeah. I think PhD is not for everyone. Everyone can try to do a PhD, but to be a PhD and to be on science also depends on the country. But you have to really like it. It's not something just to have because you want to be famous or something. You have to like it. Otherwise, it's not going to be a good experience.